Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Or all right. I know what you're saying. Way too much delay. Okay, well, I like reverb and delay. I'm from the '80s. I like all that sounding stuff. You know, it sounds ambient and big and sounds like that. You know, in my studio across town where I teach, I guess about a couple nights a week somebody else uses my teaching room, and because thankfully I'm not there on Fridays and Saturdays anymore. But well, not that I don't enjoy hanging out with my students, but need a break sometimes. But I have my little practice amp, and my reverb's always on. Probably, I don't know, 8, 7, not dimed like some people, but yeah, it's about 7. I backed it off. It used to be on 10. And then always when I come back to the studio, someone's got it on 0. Like, no reverb, whatever. Weird. I don't know. Cheers, we got through another week. It's Sunday. It's January. Where I am and where most of you probably are watching me, it's cold, right? Yeah. Anybody watching me from a warm place right now? I would like to hear from somebody who's watching me from a warm place right now. My friend Mike Humby, I think it snows where you are. Yes, it just does. You have lots of snow. It's probably colder than up here. But yeah. So Jimmy Page celebrates a birthday this week. Actually, this week is a big week for the world of guitar because all together, and in the world of music because Neil Peart passed away. 2020 this week. 2023, Jeff Beck died this week. And then the two happy things, there's 2 birthdays, Jimmy Page, and my favorite guitar player of all time who plays one of those things, one of those white, funky Flying V things, Michael Schenker, who you may not know who he is. Michael Schenker is a guitar player. His brother is Rudolf Schenker, arguably the more popular or more famous person or more known person, Rudolf Schenker of the Scorpions. Michael Schenker started in the Scorpions, but when he was probably 16 years old or so, and then when I think it was 18 or 19, UFO grabbed him. And UFO, if you don't know who UFO is, they're kind of like the Aerosmith of England, kind of the 5-piece hard rock band, and lots of substance abuse back in the 70s, like Aerosmith and that kind of thing. But anyways, yeah, those two guys, Michael Schenker, I discovered him, and he's one of my favorite guitar players ever. Jimmy Page, iconic. A funny thing, my kids got huge into the Beatles when they were very young, and they knew everything. They still know. We played rock trivia over Christmas, and they were still getting all the Beatles questions, years when albums were released and songs were released and stuff like that. Incredible stuff. But then I remember one point in Jacob's life, he asked me, he goes, "You weren't really into the Beatles, were you?" And I said, "Well, I wasn't into them like you are, but And he said, "Led Zeppelin was your Beatles, wasn't it?" Like, yeah. I said, "Yeah." Led Zeppelin was our thing. Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin. Those of you who hopefully are watching might remember when I was in high school, the Roxy Theater and then the Danforth Music Hall also. I argue with about that. But I saw The Song Remains the Same every Friday night at the Roxy Theater on the Danforth. And they always played another movie before, kind of like an opening act. They played was Black and Blue, which was concert footage of the Heaven and Hell version, Ronnie James Dio version of Black Sabbath, Black, and then of course Blue Oyster Cult. And that was a movie. And then they had this Jimi Hendrix movie, which was kind of cool that they played before. But then they played Song Remains the Same all night. And some of my friends would sit there all night, multiple viewings. Remember, this was a time where we didn't have VHS and internet or YouTube or anywhere we can just call up these things and watch them, or any kind of screaming subscription, which I'm really down on the subscription. And you have to subscribe to something to watch something. You got to get rid of this. This has got to go away in the next few years. It's ruining sports, by the way. It's ruining where I can find my Leaf games. Anyways, that was a little aside about subscription TV, which I don't like anymore. But there was none of that back then, where you can just say into your remote, Song Remains the Same, and it comes up, right? No, it was a little bit harder. We used to get on the subway. None of us drove. Somehow get to Kipling Station from Mississauga, take the Kipling all the way down to the Danforth, and get off in any condition that we were in. Stumble into a very old rickety theater with broken seats and stuff and everything, and we'd watch The Song Remains the Same from start to finish. And I kind of died a little bit inside when it came out on VHS, when we all had VCRs at home at one point in time, and it came out on VHS, and I was like, that's it. We're not going to go down to the Roxy anymore when we can sit in someone's bedroom or someone's living room on a Friday night and watch this. So I died a little bit inside. Did you people that used to do that with me? Brad Smith, Phil Carta, and everybody else who may have done that with me. But if you're a real fan, that first, and maybe now every version of Song Remains the Same that's on DVD or VHS back then, it's cut. They had to get it all on one tape, so there's some sections that are cut. And one of the most amazing, incredible sections of the Rain song is cut. And I don't know why you would cut it right. It's a real bad edit too. It's like boom, like it was like the money point of the Rain song when the heavier part comes in. And you guys might know what I'm talking about. Anybody else catch that? I would love to know if you caught that, man, because I seem to be the only person who ever talks about that. But maybe I had a bad version. It was actually had a bad edited version. Remember when we used to hand around VHS tapes of? I used to have a Paul Gilbert instructional video that we used to hand around, and it was all a million glitches because we all copied it, that kind of thing. But what I really wanted to talk about here, and I rambled on for way too much here about my nostalgic moments about Led Zeppelin, and I want to talk about, we talk about on this show, we talk about actual guitars, how they're put together, blah blah blah. We talk about technique and playing. I used to actually show you stuff on this show. I'm on 252 shows now. Let's talk about something else about Jimmy Page and Michael Schenker. Boy, do they ever look cool standing there with a guitar. Is this not part of our whole reason we play, is to stand there and look cool and have the proper stance and everything else? Jimmy Page with the Gibson double neck is one of the iconic classic rock pictures of all time. And there's so many pictures of him. Google it. There's a million pictures of him with this double neck, and then he made this look famous, and that's why I own them. And a lot of it was because of Rush too. Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee both having double necks. Steve Howe from Yes, and Rick Emmett from Triumph, of course, one of my favorite guitar players. Double neck guys. But boy, do they ever look cool. And boy, do those guys, like Jimmy Page, even with his Les Paul slung way low, with his dragon suit on and the black hair and the smoke hanging out of his mouth, that was the epitome of cool, right? And Jeff Beck, who passed away, his anniversary of passing away was this week. Here was the coolest guy ever. I think they all came from the same era. I think they kind of competed. Page and Beck competed with themselves with how cool they could look on stage because they were good friends and played in the Yardbirds together. But Beck was the coolest. And if you look at Joe Perry, who a lot of people think he's the coolest guitar player, or Slash, who a lot of people think that he is like the coolest guy who plays guitars like these and everything else, they all got that from Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page era. and most likely Joe Perry was Joe just idolized Jeff Beck, and even his hair. If you look at the '70s, Joe Perry's hair was cut the same as Jeff Beck. He looked the same. And Slash, of course, if you see early pictures of Slash as a kid, he's got all the same guitars as as Joe Perry. He's got the double neck BC Rich. He's got the black Strat and BC Rich Mockingbird, like Joe Perry played. So they all got it from somebody, and they all cool. Did we all? I mean, I'll confess, we used to stand in the mirror and play our guitars and look at each other and look at how am I looking? Is my stance okay? You know, I can admit that at this late age of my life that I did that. Some people did it with tennis rackets, and I actually had a couple of real guitars back then. Now I have too many real guitars back right now. But yeah, I mean, it's a big part of being a rock star. Lead singers know what I'm talking about, but the lead guitar player, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck, Joe Perry, Slash, probably the coolest looking guitar players ever, led by Jimmy. I know some Jeff Beck's fans would say Jeff Beck, but Jeff Beck is probably one of the coolest looking guitar players. But Jimmy is the most visual one with these pictures of the guitar. Anyways, who do you else think looks cool holding a guitar on stage? And a lot of you guys will probably say me because you're guitar players out there, but not me here, but you guys. Michael Schenker with the Flying V, very cool looking stance. Any picture of Eddie Van Halen is pretty cool looking, right? That's a big part of it. Anyways, yeah, let's talk about guitar playing. No, let's talk about how we look, with our guitars on. Yes. Anyhow, thank you very much for coming with me into 2025, and we're going to continue. I have anybody who lives in the Toronto area, please come out and see Bridge on Fire at the Linsmore Tavern in Toronto, just east of downtown on the Danforth. We will be there next Saturday night. We plan on packing the place. It's not a huge place, but if you are watching or you're from the East End or whatever, come on down. Buy advance tickets. They're only $7 online right now. The information's on my Facebook. Buy advance tickets because apparently this place has a lot of regulars that pack the place. There's been a lot of good press about us going in there as the Arena Rock Tribute. This is one of the few rock bars that are left, guys, that you wanna go into and play at and see bands at. So Linsmore Tavern next weekend, February. If you look at my room, my man cave down here, looks like a bomb went off in here. It's terrible. It's a mess in here because I've bitten together all my live stuff for the Keep the Faith shows that are coming up in February. Building guitars, pulling guitars apart, setting up guitars, setting up talk boxes and what else, and just working on stuff here in the woodshed. Before I leave, though, I will say a huge shout out to everybody who is in the Hollywood, California, Palisades, Sunset, all those areas that are under siege right now. It is unbelievable looking at these, the footage of this. Shame on you or people that are naysaying or saying bad things about that area. Their lives, it's mostly people that have a lot of money who are losing their houses right now. But man, a lot of these people really worked hard for it, and we're rags to riches now. And it's only stuff I know, but they've lost it all. I really, really hope that 5150 or Eddie Van Halen's house where Wolfgang lives right now gets spared, because there are just walls and walls of audio that Eddie recorded that I know Wolfgang's going through footage of video and audio, and if that's all destroyed, that would be a very sad thing. So hopefully anyone out there, I know everybody has pretty much evacuated, but our hearts go out to you for everybody in the Los Angeles, Hollywood area right now. Cheers, and let's get through it all together. Lots of good relief coming, hopefully, for you guys. Anyways, cheers, happy Sunday, and we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.